All right, hi guys. I'm gonna show you DeltaMath, just a little ins and outs on how to use it. I realized I should have done this video probably a couple weeks ago when we first went to online teaching, but oh well, here we go. So anyways, I had you guys create a DeltaMath account. So when you go to deltamath.com, you should just enter it here. I suggested using your school account so that way you didn't have to memorize 3 or 4 different logins for different things. That way you just memorize one login, and you should do that really across the board to all your school websites and anything you log into. Just make it easier on yourself. That way, and I noticed some of my students have been creating multiple accounts every time they log into DeltaMath because they forgot their old previous account. If you forget your password or your email that you used to log in, please email me and I'll just tell you what it is. That way you don't have to keep making new accounts. I have like people with 2 or 3 usernames in here for whatever weird reason. So if you have questions about your username, just email me and I'll give it to you, okay? So anyways, here we go. I'm going to log in. When you first log into DeltaMath, you're going to be shown this assignments page. And you can see a couple different categories. In blue here are your upcoming assignments, meaning things that are due, things that are assigned to you, things that have late credit available, okay, things that you've completed, and then things that you didn't do, right? So down here, I didn't do these 2, okay. This is my sample student, by the way. These assignments, you're going to look at them and be like, we don't have these. And that's because I've just been using this account as like a tester. All right, so anyways, upcoming assignments. One thing that you guys should notice in your upcoming assignments is how many questions that you have assigned to you. For example, when I look at this one in blue, here, I'll expand it again. There's actually 2 set of questions in this assignment. Right? There's 5 of these problems called mix, whatever that means, and 5 of these types of problems here. If I look at this assignment in yellow that was due last week, some of you guys did this. This is actually your assignment. You guys had this a couple weeks ago. Simplifying radicals, multiplying and dividing radicals, and adding and subtracting radicals. Each of these have 5 problems. So there, in this assignment, there's actually 3 separate sections. Some of you guys only did 1, like me right here. I only did these first 5. Notice how I did not do these other 2. That's why it's labeled 0 out of 5. And that's why it shows as 33%. It's your completion percentage. Not how many you got right or wrong, but how many you've attempted, how many of these you've practiced, okay? So some of you guys need to go back and finish what you haven't finished. Practice, all right? So there you go. So whenever you look at an assignment, make sure you see how many sections there are, all right? And that you've completed everything. Anyway, today what I wanted to do was to show you the assignment that I'm going to give to you this Tuesday, all right? So multiplying binomials. So we're going to review some distributive property here, and then look at the second set, 5 questions on rationalizing monomial denominators. In other words, when you have division and you have a radical in the denominator, how you might get rid of it. So 5 of these questions, 5 of these. So I'm going to start at the top one right here, 5. So I'm going to click on this. All right, and it's loading up here. I just want to show you everything that you have in DeltaMath, some of the tools that are here for you. The first thing you should do is read this, right? Here's your record, meaning there are 5 problems and you've done 0 of them, okay? Another thing to notice here is penalty. There is no penalty for this particular assignment that I'm going to give you. Sometimes there's a penalty, like if it's just some quick, let's say we're doing some multiplication, and let's say you get one wrong, there might be a penalty. And this one, there is not. Okay? Another thing you need to notice is down here in this corner right here, right? You guys see this in gray where my mouse is? It says attempt 1 out of 4. And you can read here, if you hover over it with your mouse, it even tells you the number of attempts on this specific problem before you are marked incorrect. So every time I type an answer in here into this box, right, if I get it wrong, I keep going. I have multiple attempts. In this case, there are 4 attempts to this problem. So you have 4 chances to get it right. Another thing to notice is up here in this upper corner, right? It says show example, this button. You may not have noticed this the first time around, but I'm showing this to you because when I click on it, it's going to show me an example. See, this is not the same problem that I had earlier. This is just a sample problem, and the person who wrote this website is showing you how they completed these problems. So just an example problem, just in case I'm not around to help you guys. But really, if you do have questions, hop onto Zoom or email me, and I'll try to help you out the best I can. Because I don't know about you, but when I'm reading problems like this, like this example that this guy wrote out, sometimes it's not exactly easy to follow. It's like reading a math textbook. Sometimes it can be very confusing. Like when I look at this right here, I'm going to highlight this line, right? How did they get from this line down to this line here? Like, what did they do? Sometimes it's not easy to see, right? They did multiple things. Actually, I'm looking at this. They did 6 times 35, which is 210. But they also simplified this 25. You see the square root of 25 here where my mouse is? Square root of 25 is 5, so they brought that down. So sometimes it's kind of hard to tell what's going on just by first glance. But anyways, these example problems are here. So if I want another example, I just click on it. And I can keep scrolling through different examples to get an idea of how to do this, like a little mini lesson. But again, if you have any questions, just email me or pop into Zoom and I can help you guys out. All right, so that's there. When you're done looking at examples, you can always click on original problem, and that's going to bring you back to the problem that was assigned to you. All right, so here we go. I'm going to be multiplying and expressing this in simplest radical form. This is 4 times the square root of 2, 4 plus the square root of 2 times 4 plus the square root of 50. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my piece of paper and I'm going to work on this problem. Now, you guys must show work on a separate piece of paper. So grab some paper and pencil and work on this problem. I will be asking you guys to write down your steps and submit them to me by taking a picture of it and uploading it into Google Classroom, like we did the other couple weeks ago. So these problems, have a piece of paper handy and be writing them down. For me, I have the luxury of doing this on my computer, right? That way I can show it to you too. But if you do not obviously have the tools that I have, take a piece of paper, you should be writing it down. So what I'm going to do is on my piece of paper here, I'm going to label this. What am I going to label this as right here? This is the title, Multiplying Radical Binomials Level 2. So let's see, I'm going to write that down on my piece of paper, right? Okay, so here we go. Multiply radical binomials. So I'm titling my page just like you normally would with any homework assignment, right? You're going to title your page. We're going to say problem number 1, and then I'm going to write down problem number 1. Let's see, what is problem number 1? Whoops. 4 radical 2, 4 radical 50. All right, so I'm showing my work. So really, it's just like what you would do in a textbook, except you're doing it online. All right, now that I wrote down my problem, we're just going to go ahead and do the math. In this case, when I'm multiplying, I notice that I'm going to be using distributive property. I have 2 things to distribute, so we are going to be double distributing. In other words, foiling, for some of you who know what foiling is. But I'm double distributing. So I'm going to take this 4 and we're going to multiply and distribute to both of these terms. So starting with 4 times 4, that's 16. And then positive 4 times positive square root of 50, that's positive. Positive times positive. And then 4 times the square root of 50 is 4 times the square root of 50. Remember, outsides multiply with outsides, insides multiply with insides. All right, next I'm going to distribute the next couple terms, which is square root of 2 times 4. And again, positive times positive is positive. And remember, one's inside a radical, one is outside the radical, so we have to keep them that way. 4 times the square root of 2. And then lastly, square root of 2 times square root of 50, positive times positive is another positive. And then square root of 2 times the square root of 50 is the square root of 100. 2 times 50 is 100. So I did my distributive property. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for things that could simplify, right? So I'm going to start off over here, and I'm going to kind of highlight a little bit. The first thing I notice is this. The square root of 100 is one of my perfect squares. I can simplify this. So let's see, the square root of 100 is 10. And notice now that it's outside of the square root because we've simplified it. Let's see, what else could I simplify? Oh, can I simplify the square root of 16? No, because there is no square root sign. It's just 16, so I can't simplify that. I'm just going to bring it down. Let's see, 4 times the square root of 50. Ooh, square root of 50. I can break that apart. First thing I'm going to do is bring down my 4, so I don't forget it. But 50, I recognize that number. That's 25 times 2. Now I picked 25. Why? Because if you remember your list of perfect squares, 25 is a perfect square. Miss Lee, why didn't you choose 5 times 10? Because 5 and 10 are not a perfect square. Remember, we want my list of perfect squares, right? So 4, square root of 9, square root of 16, square root of 25, right? We want these numbers here, and keep that list handy if you haven't already memorized them. That way it'll make simplifying a lot easier. Okay, anyway, so back here, moving on to this next term, I'm just going to bring down this because I can't simplify anything here, so I just brought that down. Okay, anything else I can simplify? Oh, right here, I actually can go back to this. Square root of 25 is 5. And I'm going to bring down the rest of this. This is 4 times 5 times the square root of 2. 4 times 5 is 20, square root of 2. And there we go. And now all I have to do is just bring down and copy down what I haven't used yet, just to keep organized, right? Bringing down that 10. Okay, I've simplified all the radicals. Now I can look to add like terms. And in this case, I see that I can add 16 and 10, right? So 16 and 10 go together. 16 plus 10 is 26. And I can also multiply these two together because they are like terms. They both have radical 2, so I can add those together. See, 20 plus 4 is 24, radical 2. And that's it. I cannot add these two together because they are not like terms. And so there we go. All right, so I have this piece of paper. Now I got to type this into DeltaMath. See, 26 plus 24 radical 2. So I'm going to go back to DeltaMath, and I'm going to type this in. Now, there's two ways I could type this in. One, right here in the keyboard, I'm just going to type in 26, and I can find the plus sign. And right here, radical would be this button right here. They kind of leave this here because they know you're going to need it. So I'm going to hit that, and look at how the cursor is going to let you put something in there. Wait a minute, I forgot. This is square root of 2. I forgot the 24 in front of it. So you know what, I'm just going to key back over there and say 24 radical 2. There we go. Okay, so that's how I can do that. Another way, I'm going to delete all this. Another way I can enter my answer is over here. Do you guys see this keyboard symbol right here? If you're on a computer, this works better. If you're on a phone or an iPad, I'm not sure how well this works. But anyways, I'm going to click on this and look at a new keypad appear at the bottom. So I can even type things in here instead of using my keyboard. See, I'm going to use just my mouse, and I'm going to click on, what was my answer, 26? Yeah, just clicking on this keyboard, right? Plus 24. And again, I can use this radical button here, or on my keyboard, you guys see this radical button here? It's the same thing. If I click on that, there we go, radical 2, and I typed in 2. So there's two ways you could type this in. You could type it in with your actual computer's keyboard, or this button here. Let me see if I can. Right. This button here will make this keyboard appear, and that's super helpful, right? All right, so there we go. Let me delete this. Okay, so anyways, I'm going to hit submit answer now since I've typed this in. And once I hit submit answer, are you sure you want to submit this? I'm going to hit yes, and then, oh, correct. I am correct. So yay, done. Okay, let me delete all this. One thing that you do from here is you can move on to the next problem. So right here it says next problem. I'm going to just select next problem and move on. This is just kind of a review. Okay, so I went through and did all 5 of my problems. When I'm done with the last problem, I hit next problem, and this pop-up appears. And some of you guys clicked through this thing and didn't decide reading it. So I would like for you to read any of the pop-ups that appear. So check this out. It says, congratulations, you've met the required number of problems for this section. To move to the next section, press the back button. It says back button. You may continue working for extra practice, but further correct or incorrect answers will not add or subtract from your overall score. So now that you've completed 5 correct problems, you can keep going. You can practice 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 problems, but it's not adding to your score, right? So I'll hit OK, this pop-up goes away, right? I can keep going. I can answer this problem here, right? This is 4 plus 3 radical 7, yada yada, and I can type in whatever answers here and keep going, but it's not adding to my score. So some of you guys had submitted like 20 of the same problem. Read the pop-up. It said, when you're done, hit the back button. So that's up here. This is the back button, right? So I'm done with those 5 problems. See, look right here, right? It says 5 out of 5. I'm done with those problems. But Miss Lee, you're only 50% done because I have these other 5 problems to go. So I went back here, so now I can click on the next set. And there we go. All right, so I'm going to do this problem here, 6 square root of 7. So I'm going to go to my piece of paper, and we're going to write this down, 6 square root of 7. Notice I cannot have a radical in my denominator, so we are going to be rationalizing this. We multiply top and bottom by square root of 7. What does this become? On top, we have 6 times the square root of 7. And on the bottom, square root of 7 times the square root of 7 is the square root of 49. Notice again how it's still inside the square root. We're just multiplying 7 times 7. Now that I have that, square root of 49 is a perfect square. I can simplify that. Square root of 49 is a 7. Notice how it is outside of the square root. All right, I'm going to move over what we have on the top. And do I have anything that can be simplified here? No. Look at what we have on the outsides, right? We have 6 and a 7. Oops, that's an arrow. Nothing can divide 6 and 7. But Miss Lee, what about this 7 and this 7? Can't I reduce those? No. Again, this 7 is on the inside of a radical. This one is outside a radical. We cannot simplify those. So that's it. This is my answer. So I got to type this into DeltaMath. All right, so 6 square root of 7 over 7. Now, how in the world am I going to get a fraction out of DeltaMath? Okay, so there's a couple things you can do. I'm going to see if I can kind of go through some different things. The easiest way to do this is I'm going to type 6, and there's a button that looks like it's the backslash, right, or forward slash. It looks like this. I'm going to see if I can draw it. Next to on your computer keyboard, right? You've got the button here, Shift, right? It should be right below your Enter button on your right-hand side. Next to Shift is this button. See that slash, right? It's a question mark on top, but I really want this slash. So this is what I'm going to type. So 6, and I'm going to hit that slash button here. All right, so I'm going to hit that slash button on my keyboard. So let's see, slash. And right when I type that in, notice how it turned this into a fraction. So now I can continue writing my answer in here. Let me see, let me look at my piece of paper. It was 6 over, well, actually, it was 6 square root of 7 over 7. So 6, let me go back to the top. And I can use my arrow keys and see how, like, when I use my arrow keys, if I hit up, it's going to highlight to a different section, right? So here on the top, I'm missing square root of 7. So I'm going to type square root of 7 on top. And on the bottom, I'm going to type in 7. There. So how you get the fraction to appear is you hit that slash key. There we go. I'm going to hit submit answer. Are you sure you want to submit this? Yes. And it's thinking. My internet's slow. Oh, there we go. All right, so there you go. That's how you get fractions to appear in your DeltaMath, right? So you got to hit this button right here. You got to hit this slash button. All right. Let me see. Let's just test this thing out. I'm going to come back over here. I'm just going to play around with this. 4 slash, oh, see, look, right? I can take my arrow key, come back over here and type in some extra stuff if I need to. I can arrow down here. I can, oh, it's not supposed to be a 3, it's supposed to be a 5, and delete it. So here it should be 14. So I can take my arrows and just kind of mouse around to whatever I need. All right, there we go.